What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another YouTube video, and today I wanted to talk about Street Fighter V's most controversial design change. And I know what you're thinking, which one? Because there's a lot. I mean, Street Fighter V got a lot of flack upon release for many different things about its design that had changed from previous iterations. It had a lot of proximity normals removed. In fact, there are no proximity normals. It had crush counters all over the place, the priority system, which enabled crush counters and mediums to beat lights, the punishable sweeps and removal of invincible backdashes, 8 frames of lag. I mean, going into the actual performance issues, removal of crouch tech, the input buffer, which made all combos a lot more accessible and easy, but removed execution from a lot of situations. There are many design changes, which Street Fighter V caught a lot of flack for upon release. However, I would say that there is one specific design change which got to people the most. It got to the Street Fighter purists the hardest. And this design change was actually not even present in the first season of Street Fighter V. This design change happened in season 2 of Street Fighter V. Of course, I'm talking about the removal of invincible uppercuts, invincible dragon punches from characters in Street Fighter V without the use of meter. You see, when Street Fighter all began, we had one lowly little kung fu warrior named Ryu, and he had access to the Hadouken, the Shoryuken, and the Tatsumaki Senpukyaku, if I said that correctly. So these 3 moves kind of define the heart and soul of the series for many people. And one main characteristic of the Dragon Punch, the Shoryuken, is that this move is always invincible. This move is the move you use to get people to stop pressuring you. If they're pressuring you too much, if you're knocked on the ground, you can wake up with a Shoryuken, and this will blow through any attacks the opponent may be delivering and get them off you if it lands, right? Also used to anti-air opponents who are jumping at you. And so it was kind of part of the DNA of the Street Fighter series ever since its inception. Street Fighter 1 had invincible DPs, even though nobody played that. Street Fighter 2 had invincible DPs. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike had invincible DPs, even though you can just parry in the air if you try to anti-air with it. So I wouldn't go into the whole mind game and meta involving that. Street Fighter 4, of course, Street Fighter 4 had invincible DPs because this was actually the main way the game was played for many years. This is how Street Fighter 4 was played for the first, I would say, 5 years of its release. So, as you could tell, with all 20 pixels we had available to us back in 2010, the Shoryuken was very much an integral part of the Street Fighter experience, if you will. It was notorious to fight online Kens who were constantly mashing uppercut at any moment they possibly could. And yes, if the move whiffs, you can punish it when it lands. But back then, uppercuts actually had very few recovery frames compared to what you see in Street Fighter V. And also, there was no crush counter mechanic, so you weren't going to get guaranteed punishes. You're really incentivized to mash DPs, especially at lower level, because lower level players genuinely had a difficult time punishing hard enough to make you kind of want to stray away from mashing DP. So you would legitimately see this strategy used at lower levels of Street Fighter 4. So you can just see that it was very much part of the heart and soul of the franchise for quite some time. And that continued into Street Fighter V. Like I mentioned, Season 1 of Street Fighter V did not do away with invincible meterless uppercuts. So if you look at the character selects for Street Fighter V Season 1 with the DLC included, just ignore Akuma. Akuma was the beginning of Season 2 DLC. Once you hit Ryu, you hit the people who have the meterless invincible DP. The right side, you have Ken, Cammy, Nikali, and I believe that's about it, right? Only these characters had invincible DPs without meter. Now, some of the cast had a meter invincible reversals, such as Urian, Guile, and I believe Rashid, Karen, you know, a few others, Ibuki, and Jury as well. You can see back in season 1, it was pretty unevenly applied. This game was known for pressure and throw loops, especially at this time in season 1 and season 2. So some characters had meterless options to get out of jail when people were pressuring them. There was crush counters, of course, so you would be punished heavily if it's blocked. But, you know, it was kind of unevenly applied at the time, where it was kind of the haves and the have-nots in terms of meterless reversals. But this is the game of Street Fighter. You know, if you have a Shoto, you have a DP that's invincible. That's just how it is. However, that was not the case. After season 2 dropped, one of the major balance changes was removing invincibility on meterless reversals and meterless uppercuts. So Ryuken, Kami no longer had that option without meter to wake up, be invincible. You had to spend bar to get that invincibility. So at that time, I'm telling you, the purists were out for blood. To this day, this is the design change that I hear brought up the most by the OGs of the scene, who are constantly bemoaning the loss of the invincible Shoryuken. Now, you can have your own opinions about the design change and you know, contemplate if it hurts the integrity, the spirit of the Street Fighter brand and series. But there's something really lost in this conversation. There's something very much lost in this conversation that I want to set the record straight on. I guarantee you, most people bemoaning this change, and most people who have an opinion about this, have no idea what was actually changed in that critical moment in season 2. If I were to tell you right now that every single version of your DP has some form of invincibility, would you believe me? Why don't I go ahead and show you instead of tell you? So previously, if you wanted to have invincibility, you could just do your DP. Any version of it would be fully invincible. Now, to have full invincibility from throws and strikes and any other type of attack category you can think of, you have to spend EX. So EX DP, Shoryuken type style for Ken, Ryu, Kami. For Guile and other characters like Oro, it's, you know, the charge move. You got to spend the bar. However, there is more nuance to this design change than meets the eyes. Here I have Balrog doing a tick throw setup. So he's going to go a block string sort of into a tick grab here. So if I try to press a button, you know, it's going to beat your buttons, the usual. If I try to heavy DP, you can see it said reversal. You could hear the sound. You pay attention. He's actually going to grab me out of my DP. If I do medium DP, he's going to grab me out of the medium DP as well. If I do EX, as expected, EX is fully invincible. It'll blow through. However, there's one more DP I haven't used yet. Light DP. Light DP is not fully invincible, but Light DP has full throw invincibility starting on, I believe, frame 3. Meaning, tick throw setups, which always land on frame 3, will be blown up by Light DP. I have an option to beat throw. Now, here's the problem. If they do a frame trap instead, by Light DP, it's going to get hit. It's not invincible to physical attacks. Same thing here if I do my medium DP. But, you know, I have another one without meter. Let me try that. Heavy DP. Heavy DP is invincible to physical attacks on frame 3. And a huge majority of frame traps in this game hit on frame 3. So if I do my 3-frame jab here, which is a 3-frame move, easily get a frame trap. So the frame data nerds will understand what I'm putting down here. This is basically winning against my jab because of the priority system. They're actually colliding on the same frame. Mediums beat lights on the same frame. So because of that, when I mash here, it's gonna beat my jab. But the DP is invincible on that frame. 1, 2, 3. If he does a tighter block string, this will beat that. See, that's going to beat my DP. So this is not hitting on frame 3, like it's not leaving a 3-frame gap. It's probably I think it leaves like a 1-frame gap or 2-frame. It's beating the heavy DP. This string locks you down from doing that option. However, that string has tons of pushback and leads to less damage. So if they're going to commit to doing strings that beat my DP, they're going to have to commit to options that do less damage. But if they want to do the big damage frame traps, it's susceptible to my DP that blows up the frame traps, right? That's what the heavy DP does. Now, we talked about light, we talked about heavy. Now, what about the medium? Well, we talked about attacks on the ground and throws. So what else is left to do besides jump in? Medium is invincible to air moves, which allows you to anti-air very, very late in the jump arc. So if I try to crouching fierce at this timing from the jump in, I'm just gonna get hit or trade at best, right? But I can do really late medium DP, really, really late, low to the ground, and this is invincible to air moves, I believe, on frame 1, so you can't hit him from the air. So if you're picking up on what I'm putting down, you can see that each strength of the DP has a use. The light one is invincible to throw, so if I know they're going for a throw, I have an anti-throw option. The medium one is invincible to air options, so it's good to use as an anti-air. And the heavy one is invincible to frame traps. It's not going to be blowing through every single string, but if they do certain frame trap strings or certain stagger sequences, the heavy DP will blow through it. If I want to beat everything and beat all of these options all at once, I can spend a bar and do EX, which is fully invincible to everything. This design paradigm applies to a lot of characters in Street Fighter V. It doesn't apply to every single character, so I actually created a whole tier list to help visualize how this is actually distributed throughout the cast, right? So here's how I grouped it. Characters in S tier have at least one DP that applies for throw invincibility, one DP for upper body invincibility, one for projectile invincibility, and one that's at least physically invulnerable, right? So some DPs, like Oro's heavy punch DP, actually beats projectiles and physical hits on frame 3, but some don't. That's what the A tier is for. Like they lose like throw invulnerability, or they lose projectile and vulnerability. So each one of these groups have slightly less options to blow through things. And then, you know, when you get to this group, they have really no DP that can apply to this. So all the characters from season 1 with a traditional style DP have all of these effects that I discussed relevant to them. They can blow through projectiles, they can blow through physical hits, they can blow through throws. Now, it does not blanket apply. That's the difference. They have to choose a specific option. So what this requires you to do is to think. It requires you to both think and read the opponent a little bit. And if you don't want to do that and you just believe that it's going to hit, you can just do EX. As you might be able to tell by the way I'm discussing this information, I don't really mind the fact that they got rid of mirrorless and fully invincible reversals. I don't mind. I'm of the opinion that when we were in season 1, there were people and characters playing a different game. The fact that we nerfed the DPs made the game way more balanced and way more fun for a lot of players. That's how I feel. Back in the day, Ryu used to have an invincible DP. When he was in V-Trigger, his super also broke armor. So let's do the visual math in our heads here. He could wake up at any time with an invincible move, which he could cancel into super, and that super would be safe on block and give him a combo, because even if you block the wake up DP, the super would guard break you and he would get a guaranteed combo, meaning he would get a guaranteed wake up with super into guaranteed damage. Things like that made me go, huh, maybe he shouldn't have this invincible option, which leads into a guard break super, which means I can't punish him for doing it at all, and I can't even pressure him when he has that V-trigger applied. So same thing with like Cammy and Ken. Characters had throw loops, so much pressure. It was finally your turn to pressure these characters. They would reversal and turn the tides on you. When they pressured you, you had nothing to turn the tides on them. It was a very unbalanced experience in my opinion. And I really like these changes because when you see someone do something like a light DP through a throw or a heavy DP through a certain string, it shows that they actually understand the situation on a very deep level and that they're using their tools to specifically counter what you're trying to do. So in my opinion, controversial here, I feel like this design change was good in the context of Street Fighter V. Does every Street Fighter game have to follow suit? No, but I feel like with the way Street Fighter V is structured, I actually really like this change. As an aura player myself, I actually love using heavy punch DP to go through a lot of strings. And you know, with V-trigger behind it, I get a full combo. So I like to use that tool. I think it's super strong having a heavy punch DP or whatever strength DP you might have that actually breaks through block strings. Very underutilized and underrated tool that a lot of people don't use to its full potential. So that said, that is Street Fighter V's most controversial design change. Let me know what you think, if you agree or disagree with my take that I think was an okay decision. Maybe you can think of something else that was even more controversial as a design change when Street Fighter V was dropped. And stay tuned for the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.